Welcome back to our special edition of Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small, co-host is Paul Ogden.
Good afternoon, Mark.
And our guest is Wally Bolinger, who's the owner and proprietor of Red Lion Groggery in Fountain Square. It's at 1043 Virginia Avenue in Indianapolis. Also with us is Jeff Cox. We're talking about the Super Bowl ordinance. I guess you'd call it the Super Bowl ordinance.
What it's commonly called.
Yeah, that they put into effect in Indianapolis in August 2012 in preparation for a Super Bowl that nobody else really wanted. There were only a couple of other cities that were bidding on the Super Bowl. Most cities lose money on the Super Bowl, and in this instance, it looks like the NFL set things up so that...
Well, I don't know that most cities lose money on the Super Bowl. I don't know that most cities have basically caved in on everything the NFL could want and then some.
Yeah, because the NFL doesn't pay any taxes here. They don't have to pay for taxes on the hotel rooms or the taxi cabs. They
sales tax, they buy something, the NFL people, they buy something here.
Cities give the NFL incentives to have the Super Bowl come, but I don't know that anyone has done it to the extent that Indianapolis has, and that just suggests to me that the NFL really didn't want to come here without being bribed.
It's a northern climate in February, for an event in February.
However, we got the global warming thing going on, Mark.
Oh, just don't go
we
there.
We have a spring day out there, a nice spring day.
But I'd say that the city greeted the NFL with open arms, but I believe that other appendages would be more appropriate to describe what the city of Indianapolis has done for the NFL. But be that as it may.
Rick Santorum, do not watch this webcast.
The zoning ordinance has one person who makes decisions on everything. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, and I think Jeff is going to comment on that.
Yeah.
The constitutionality of that, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, you know a little bit more about this.
Yeah, typically, when you have issues of free speech, just keep in mind two things. There's political speech and there's commercial speech.
Yeah, political speech might be Mark's sign.
Yeah.
Really, they can't do anything about that.
Right, well, political speech has the highest form of protection.
Right.
And
Oh.
notice how well made that sign is, except it forgot the after
He left the
violates. Yeah, he left that out.
Well, they didn't like
so,
my sign.
And Paul's sign that was kind of made off the cuff. And it's kind of...
Yeah, Mark is much more professional.
Yes, although he forgot the in there.
It reflects a liberal arts education.
A poor liberal arts education. Anyway, when you have the political speech or basically general speech, that's entitled to the highest form of protection. Commercial speech is entitled to a lower form of protection.
But it still falls under the free speech clause.
It still falls under the free speech clause, but speech is or can be subject to certain time, place, and manner restrictions.
But those time, place, and manner restrictions have to do with people being crowded into some place, or there being an appropriate message, like the age of the audience, for example. It has nothing to do with somebody essentially paying Tony Soprano a month in advance of an event to advertise on a city street where they've been for years.
Well, see, I'm not a big fan of Tony Soprano. I prefer Don Corleone. That's the one I grew up with, and that's the one that I like. But anyway, this ordinance, in essence, gives the city a right to approve Super Bowl, any mention of the Super Bowl, before it goes out. That's prior restraint, number one.
And that is something that the framers of the Constitution abhorred.
That's absolutely correct. And there's no government interest that justifies limiting, at least in my opinion, that justifies limiting mention of the Super Bowl.
And government interest is one of the factors in the test of whether something that passes constitutional muster.
Yeah, normally in the analysis for protecting political speech, it has to pass a strict scrutiny test. Now, whether it has a compelling government interest and it is narrowly tailored to be the least intrusive possible.
Okay, now, Wally, your place here, this is locally owned. You're a local business person, right?
That's right.
Okay, the most that you have in terms of any kind of a chain thing would be some of the beers you sell, are they national chains?
Yeah, there's some national chains, national import selection.
So you've got a really wide variety of beers here.
Yes.
but you're a local business person. Now, a lot of the businesses downtown now, they're right near, they're maybe closer to Lucas Oil Stadium or the same distance as you. Most of the businesses downtown anymore are national chains. Would I be right in saying that?
Almost all of them.
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah, and so we have a situation set up with this ordinance where it's geared more towards businesses that can shell out money, pay to play the game of advertising. So, what have you? What happens?
There's something more to it.
Well, what's that?
Okay. In terms of the prior restraint that's presented by this ordinance, the city.
Bunny ears behind you.
Thank you very much. I like rabbits. The city places the power to decide whether a Super Bowl sign is allowable under the ordinance in the hands of one individual with the Department of Code Enforcement. One person.
Who is that person?
I don't know him personally.
Gentleman named Adam Collins.
Well, he knows him.
And so he was
attorney.
He was elected to this position.
No, he was not. He was appointed by the mayor.
So he was elected. He was elected to no position.
That is correct.
Okay.
He has been given the sole authority under this ordinance to decide if a Super Bowl related sign is legal or not. And that is per se unconstitutional.
Okay, now, Wally, your sign, they took it. You got a message that you know where it is. Have you gotten a ransom note for it?
No.
Okay.
But have we pointed out his shirt?
Yes, his shirt. We've got your sandwich board.
In the form of like a ransom note with very sized letters cut out from the newspaper.
Well, wait a minute. The night that they took your sign, did you have any mention of the Super Bowl on it?
No.
And it's what you've always had out there, right?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any plans on putting? If they gave you the sign back right now, would you put it right back out?
I would, only because they told me, and I have it recorded, that they won't enforce it after the Super Bowl. That they are only enforcing it for this certain period.
So they were citing some general ordinance and not the Super Bowl ordinance itself.
That's correct.
Okay. Then,
In my understanding of the law and the ordinance is that temporary signs are not allowed within 30. Temporary signs are defined as signs put up within 30 days of the Super Bowl. But this isn't a 30-day sign. This is a sandwich board that's been out there, been putting out for 2 years.
I don't think you can call something temporary when it's put out on a regular basis for an extended period of time, like 2 years prior to the event.
Well, it can be removed quickly. I think that's the point. Part of the definition of temporary. Go ahead.
What I've been told is that they are removed it now. This is their latest excuse, is that because it is an obstruction of the right-of-way. That it is in the way if a handicapped or a disabled person was to come down the street, it would be in their way.
Okay.
And I pointed out to them that, I don't see how it's in the way when we have a 15-foot wide sidewalk. Nothing else blocking.
Maybe pivot the camera and
With
show
a 2-foot
the
sign.
Show the sidewalk.
our director of cinematography will pivot this camera so you can see out on the.
This is the excuse they gave me after they told me it was in violation of code.
So they came up with a new excuse.
Exactly.
But wouldn't it block the sideways for the sidewalk for the rest of the year? I mean, this is
Exactly.
And I don't notice a lot of people walking up and down the street. We're far enough away where there aren't people.
Yep. Well, a couple things to point out here. And number one, just because the government hasn't enforced an ordinance before in the case of this sign, doesn't mean they can't enforce it. There's a legal principle called laches, where if you haven't exercised a legal right for a particular period of time, then you basically have forfeited that right. That cannot be applied to the government. Otherwise, the government couldn't enforce any laws because it can't possibly catch everybody.
Yeah, but you can argue selective enforcement.
Selective enforcement is not a defense.
It can be, and you also have a situation here where nothing was done in terms of this ordinance that is reasonable or plausible given the factual circumstances.
Well, number one, selective enforcement is not a defense. It is number two that they brought this up in terms of the Super Bowl is a problem because we go back to this hoobah, czar, whatever you want to call him, who's in charge of determining whether these signs are legal or not. This one person. one person making that determination is by definition arbitrary and capricious. It just depends on what mood he's in that day. The ordinance can be non-discretionary. Non-discretionary as to whether a sign should be approved or not. If there's discretion on the part of this one individual,
Then it's unconstitutional.
it is unconstitutional per se.
Okay.
We should point out this person, we did have elected officials that gave this power to this one person.
Yes.
And in my opinion, we should hold council members responsible. And unfortunately, many of them were of my party, Republican Party, who voted for this stuff. And they vote, not all of them, there was one in particular that did not. They voted to give sweeping powers to one individual to benefit the NFL.
And the other thing that a couple of things that I would point out, and we're getting close to wrapping up, I think. One is that I was wondering how many council members got free tickets to the Super Bowl or got tickets to the suites. Turns out they don't get free tickets. They get tickets at base. Base on those tickets is anywhere from $800 to $1,200, and you can scalp right now for $3,200. So if you're a council person who has any brains, you take the cost us overall as taxpayers to get this event here when most of the people who are going to make money on it are either from out of town here temporarily or are large corporations that are just going to suck the money out locally and send it to wherever they're on headquarters.
So, Mark, we have the sex trade. They're here. Yeah.
That's true. But
makes it money.
you know, one of the radio stations has talked about like 1,500 hookers are here for this.
Well, remember, the city's trying to crack down on that, and in order to crack down on the hookers, they're basically stopping pursuing car theft suspects when they announced they're looking at that policy. So to the city, prostitution in the city center is more of a threat to you or to the city than car thieves.
So
Nicely done.
any car thieves out there, just realize now's a hot market here in Indianapolis.
Run dressed like a prostitute.
yeah, just
That's our city leaders.
If you're-
Wile E. Coyote.
If you're-
super genius.
if you're a hooker, go to Washington D.C. where you've been working anyway, and forget about Indianapolis this week. Wally, this is a great place. Thank you very much for allowing us to come in here and talk to you today. And I put the cards in
What is
place.
the address?
1043 Virginia Avenue.
And
It's at the intersection of Virginia Avenue and Prospect Avenue in Fountain Square.
on the west side of the street in the old G.C. Murphy building. And
Parking in the back.
we have come to you today. This is Wednesday, February 1st. On Sunday, the Super Bowl was being played. 10:43. What? We're running out of time. Anyways, on Sunday, February 5th, the Super Bowls. Oh, okay. 1043 South, 1043 Virginia Avenue. Anyways, we'll see you on Saturday because we'll be showing, our show then will be on ranking the U.S. presidents. Thank you very much. I'm Mark Small. Paul Ogden is our
Ranking
guest
number
host. Wally Bolinger has been our guest, and so is Jeff Cox. Thank you.